Hello and welcome to CLEA'S World. I'm Clea, and today I'd like to share with you more information I've received from a 25th dimension during my last qhht Beyond Quantum Healing hypnosis session. I will be reading from a transcript, and Lorraine, who was the hypnotist during the session, will be asking me questions I prepared in advance of the session. When I refer to myself, to me, I'm speaking on myself under hypnosis, which means the answers are coming from the 25th. But before we move forward, I'd like to ask you to please subscribe to my channel, give a like to this video, and also leave me a comment below to let me know if the stuff resonates and what you see out in the world that confirms some of this information. I think the 25th has done a great job of explaining a lot of stuff that's going on, where otherwise we're left, wondering. There's so much craziness going on out there. At any rate, I'm going to jump in here and we're going to start reading. Okay. Lorraine, why do children not put up as much resistance as we do? Why do they have less judgment? Are they still not fully in the game? And then why does this change me? Yeah, so when we come here, yes, we are not fully in the game yet. We grow more in the game as we are subject to the vibration of the planet. We're just learning how the game works, right? And that's what happens. So yes, children are just not as savvy at pretending at the game as we are. And in fact, we as children knew less. It's almost like when you go through schooling, you learn more about something as you go. And that's why. So yes, they're just not fully adapted to the game as we are, as they'll become later on. Lorraine. Is it societal and parental pressure are training them into the game, or is the essence wanting to be more in the game as time goes by on this planet? Me. Yeah, that too. And that's exactly right. That's exactly, so all of the above. It's not so much pressure as in the people here want to believe in the game. You're coming in, they're telling, hey, here's how we play the game here. Just like we're going to do the same thing on your earth. Hey, on your earth, we don't believe in time. You go on the Pleiades and they tell you, hey, we believe in time, or we don't believe in eating meat. That's all. These are the rules of the game. They're letting you know. Now, of course, you as an essence already knew where you were going into. But when you're born, you pretend that you don't know. You're brand new. You're like, oh, what's happening? And so other people teach you. And also what we said, that the essence, as it stays in the game, wants to be more and more in the game. That's the whole point. You want to forget. And so many times as a child, you do remember. A lot of children have many spiritual gifts they're aware of, like Deja did. And then there came a point where she was a teenager and she was so close already. She already saw things. She already could predict things, etc., where she's like, well, this is not really fun, is it? I came here to forget. What am I doing? And all of a sudden she became an atheist for 30 years. And that was super fun. And then eventually she set herself up for remembering, because that's what she came here to do, right? And this is how we play the game, simply. A lot of kids come in and they still haven't decided, do I want to play the game this way? Do I want to play the game that way? Do I want to be here in 3D, but really be a little bit spiritual over here? Do I want to be super spiritual, which means I'm going to be a little bit of an outsider, especially if I'm back in the 70s, the 80s, whatever it is. These are just choices. Yeah. So does every child have to become full in the game? No, you don't. It's your choice. And a lot of essences choose as they go. They come here and they look around. They're like, what shall I do? Of course, you set yourself up to have certain experiences before you even come by choosing the NPC body you're going to be embodying into, the family you embody into. You choose all these circumstances, but then even within that set, that might be similar to 1,000, a million other people around you, you decide which particular experience you want to have. And so there are children who never felt like they had spiritual gifts, because they came here like precisely wanting to be very square, whatever it is. So it's all the same. But most kids, there are a lot of kids who remember even their lives before embodying. It's different experiences, that's all. Lorraine, I'm still trying to figure out why I decided playing in the game at this time. Okay, next question. We speak of unconditional love here, but it seems that most of us have no idea of what love is. Why do we not know how to love here? Not even our own children, who we normally love more than anyone else, and often even more than ourselves. Since we're everything, how come we're so good at hating and other negative emotions while love is so hard for us? Me. Because we want to be in the game. And part of being in the game is believing in the separation. And so even when we have our own children, we want to be in the game with them. And part of being in the game with them means we're going to play this whole thing where, yes, I love you so much. And of course, we love each other. But we are going to pretend that you have to be this way, that way, in whichever way for me to love you, or blah, 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 because you're not me. We help each other being in the game. We also help each other have the experience we came to have. So you already know that I have an NPC that has a certain type of personality. Say, let's pretend for a moment that Clea gets, outraged all the time, or she's even abusive. And essence coming to me would know that they would have to deal with that. And which again, is not to justify abuse in any way. And it's just the stuff that we deal with here and that we found acceptable here, even though it's a very low quality choice of behavior. And so does it mean that at the essence level, we are one? Of course, we love each other, but here, the game doesn't matter that it's a child that's coming into me. Doesn't matter it's my child. If I have the tendency to become outraged and to be abusive, whatever it is, guess what? Now I have a child and I can do whatever I want. There's a lot of that going on. You know this. This is why abuse happens, because the child is helpless and the adult feels they can do whatever they want, which is quite painful. And I'm getting emotional, guys. And this is going to be a lot to deal with when we get to New York and we see this. All right, let me take a little breath here. There's a lot of that going on. You know this. This is why abuse happens, because the child is helpless and the adult feels they can do whatever they want, which is quite painful for us when we think about these things going on, I realize. But at the end of the day, it's not that we don't know how to love, it's that we can't even afford to remember how to love, because that immediately, because what is love? Is you realize everybody is you. Everything is you. That will immediately destroy the game, right? Right there and then, on the spot. We can't afford everybody doing this. When you love, you don't judge. We already said judgment is necessary here. So love is very dangerous here. And now dangerous, not dangerous like in a scary way, but simply it's not gonna really, if you want to believe in separation, you can't afford to love. We even believe in separation from ourselves. We even believe that we don't even love ourselves. And we do not love ourselves because we don't want to remember that we are source. You have to remember for you to have fun here. You have to know, you have to believe that you are limited, that you are faulty, that you are flawed, that you are bad, etc., etc. Guilt and blah, 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 blah. We already talked about guilt. It's a way to feel separation. The whole point here is we want to feel separate. We want to feel as opposite to who we are as possible. So of course, we're going to be mean to each other and judge each other. And it's even surprising that we actually like some people here, because really we might as well, we might as well just hate everybody. And we're laughing here. That would really fix the vibrational problem of making this very real reality. But again, because we misunderstood. We thought that's what it took for us to keep this reality in place. Of course, that's not true. There was a limiting belief that screwed us up, basically. And we see the result of it, of this misunderstanding. But at the same time, this is why we don't have unconditional love. We don't even really have love. Sometimes we remember what is love, like with animals, like with Orion. You love Orion, and they're referring to Lorraine's cat. You're allergic to Orion, and you still love him. That's love. And there is unconditional love. But is it unconditional, really? What happens if Orion starts pooping on your bed? Do you see? This is what we're talking about. You still need to have a degree of judgment left, because this is how we sustain this reality very simply. But you and Orion are one, are the same person. Do you hate your left arm? You don't. You want to start slapping yourself and then cut it off, say, oh, my left arm is slapping me. You know, this is the game we play here. And Lorraine was laughing. This is the game we play here, but it's not real. But for that reason, we cannot afford a conditional love. We don't know. We don't want to remember. We don't even know and want to understand what unconditional love is. We cannot afford to. Lorraine, clearly, I see the wisdom of that. Okay, what is a deja vu? What happens during a deja vu? Me. What happens is that we simply remember something we have lived through. And so while we think that is something that we've lived through here, it might have been something that we actually traveled to or experienced in a different dimension, maybe in a dream. And so when we see it, it might have been something, because again, reality is slowed down, right? So we might see something and then it might take time for it to come to fruition. It might even be that. So what we call a deja vu, thinking that, oh, I saw this thing has already happened. I saw this scene before. We think, oh, it happened here. I happened to have breakfast at the same time, you know, with the same people dressed the same way. But it's not that. You might have dreamed of it, which of course is not a dream. It's travel to where you have seen it, because again, there is no time. And that's what a deja vu is. It's really, you're just becoming aware of something you already encountered, but it doesn't mean you encountered it here. Lorraine, okay, you said that homeless people are in 3D chambers. Were the homeless mostly 3D? And if so, why? Me. Yes, so not all homeless people are in 3D chambers. Not all homeless people were 3D, but most homeless people were, yes, they were 3D, because we already discussed the fact that we needed homelessness was an idea created where we needed to keep us in a certain vibration. So it requires an agreement from the essence to believe in that type of limitation, where you really don't have a lot of freedom left as a homeless person. So in order to accept a degree of limitation, that extreme degree of limitation on your freedom, you really have to be a 3D person, unless you're thinking, this is what I'm doing, I'm just going to move on and, you know, reincarnate somewhere else. So for this particular takedown, though, in view of this particular takedown in the alignment, though, you would have not necessarily been somebody that says, hey, I want to be homeless and then I'm going to go hang out with aliens. It's just not in alignment, you know. It's not just the easiest way to align with that. Because you wouldn't just, very simply, you wouldn't be aligning into situations that would make you be open to aliens. Now, does it mean no homeless people will go with the aliens? Of course not. But the vast majority we're talking about in general, homeless people would have to have more of a 3D disposition. So think that a lot of things are real, like money is real, or, you know, there's nothing I can do to help myself. And life is what it is, right? So again, not necessarily the type of alignment that you have if you're going to go to New Earth, okay? So in that sense, it's much more likely for them, you know, for somebody who is 3D to align with the idea of homelessness. But there are homeless people that will go to New Earth. That's another experience we're going to have access to there. Some of us have been homeless people in the past, and we're still going to New Earth. Being homeless doesn't mean that you don't get the same amount of choices as everybody else, and they were laughing. But generally speaking, in this lifetime, when we talked about aligning, most of the homeless would have been 3D people. They would have been aligned with 3D chambers. Also because they want to experience the change, you know, the change in experience, going from owning nothing to actually being free, basically financially free. And when they answered this question, it made me think of the book. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, I can't remember. I think his name is Thomas Roth, and he wrote a book, one of the most beautiful books, and it's a tiny little thing that I've ever read, that was The Legend of the Holy Drinker. If you guys have a chance, you'll read it. Like, I think it takes an hour or two to read. It is incredible, that story. It really touched me. Lorraine, thank you. We have seen a lot of sleepers in cities during the pandemic. Was there a particular geographic distribution of people who are going to 3D chambers instead of the aliens? Was it pretty much 50-50 everywhere? Or was there a majority distribution for one group in cities versus the country, or by county or continent? I think he meant, or by country or continent. In other words, would a person who's a non-sleeper have had a higher chance of being outside of cities or certain places as part of its alignment with its choice? Me. And I just want to tell you, the reason I asked this question is because in one of the previous videos, I talked about the Fat Lorraine had heard in a podcast that there were a bunch of homeless people in a city, I think it was Seattle, and all of a sudden they're all gone, because of course we know that a lot of people going to 3D chambers are gone. Basically all the people that were going to 3D chambers are already gone. And so it made me think about, I mean, our city's full of 3D people. I mean, clearly we don't see homeless people in a lot of other places outside of cities. So that's where these questions come from. All right, so here we're asking about geographic distribution. I mean, is there a preference to how people have set themselves up to be in cities versus the country during this pandemic, or is it just random? Me. So this is the answer from the 25th. Yes, so no, it's not random. We already explained that we knew about this takedown in people having aligning, essences having aligning with the choice they made. And so as part of the alignment, a lot of people, for example, have realized in the past, say, 10, 20, or 30 years, that they didn't want to be in cities. They wanted to be more sovereign, wanted to be more self-reliant, that kind of thing. So by default, you would have had a lot of people who are more 4D, if you want to put it that way, or maybe are going to go with the aliens living outside of cities. Whereas other people really fully wanted to be in the game, maybe might even be more attracted to city, might have been more attracted to cities. Clea was very much a huge city dweller and lover while she was an atheist. And then somehow she finds herself in a tiny little place like St. Louis now. Things don't happen by chance. And not only it didn't happen by chance, she found herself in a place where during the pandemic, they didn't bear down as much as in other places like Germany, Austria, Australia, Canada, Italy even. Things don't happen by chance. We have aligned ourselves in order to have certain experiences. So in this sense, yes, it's not random. It's not 50-50. A lot of cities, especially in these countries that had borne down on people more, they were mostly 3D people. That's why this happened in the first place, which doesn't mean everybody was 3D. Doesn't mean you cannot be there if you're going to New York, but that's less, there would have been less of a choice in alignment. Now, it might have been a choice that you wanted to have the experience that you wanted to have as an individual. And that's absolutely fine. Because again, on New Earth, we're going to have all kinds of people that have had all kinds of experiences. But generally speaking, a lot of the 3D people were attracted or would have been attracted to more constricted places. So it would have been either cities or countries where it turned out that they were very constrictive, you know, like Italy or whatever it is. And so that's, yes, no, it's not by chance. Things don't happen by chance. Lorraine. Oh, and before I move forward in regards to this question, that would explain why if you are in cities, you do feel like there's nobody around you that you can speak with. That really, I mean, everybody's mostly 3D. I am in Italy and I know, and I always knew, this is one of the reasons I moved, that all the people that I knew were very, very 3D. And so even now I'm here and I really don't feel the urge to see a lot of people now. Obviously the 3D people are gone, so I would be meeting with a bunch of shells, but I always knew this. This is where I left. So it's funny the stuff we know, even when we don't have an actual explanation for it. So this very much resonates with me. Lorraine, thank you. You said that an essence that wants to incarnate here cannot be stopped from doing so. So reptilians wanted to come here, and in the beginning we had 50-50 dark and light. But what happens if more essences from one team or the other want to incarnate on a planet? Wouldn't you start with an imbalance? Me, yes and no, meaning that, is there a possibility there? Yes, but really doesn't happen because everyone who goes to a planet wants to have a certain type of experience. And therefore you do what you have to do to have that type of experience. We've given an example of this before. Even as we saw that the dark the dark itself saw itself gaining ground much faster than the light. The reason they kept on going, even though they saw that they were gaining ground, is that because they expected the light to do a bunch of stuff. We are the ones that failed in that sense to counteract, okay? So both light and dark want to have a balanced reality. And so the dark would never, essences they want to, that are on the team of the dark, or they want to incarnate on a certain planet, they would never come here and say, let's make planet Earth all dark, because that would not be fun for them. No polarity means no fun. So they wouldn't do that. They would lose interest in doing that. They would just have enough essences coming here where it would make sense. So in the beginning, we did start pretty much 50-50, as in, let's have fun. But then of course, the dark, we already discussed how the dark was much better than us at playing this game. So they always gain ground. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.